Playtime is over and the fight for survival has just begun as we gather all of the items and escape the Rainbow Friends. Now it seems that horror games on Roblox have had a bit of a renaissance as of late, with many games released by various studios looking to get a piece of the horror blocks pie. Rainbow Friends is one of the latest experiences to hit the big time, with the game released in November 2021 and reaching notoriety in mid-July 2022. Since then, the game regularly sees over 100,000 concurrent players, with the game notching up over 300 million visits as of the release of this video. The game is based around an abandoned children's entertainment facility, with the game taking cues from games like Piggy, Five Nights at Freddy's and Poppy Playtime. You need to survive 5 challenges across 5 nights, with the first 4 challenges centered around item searches while you avoid the multicolored monsters roaming the facility. The 5th night is the finale, where you have to outrun the main monster to escape the facility and beat the first chapter. In terms of difficulty, it can be difficult for new players to figure out how to avoid each monster, since they all have their own ways to catch you. However, once you get to grips with the map layout and the monsters, it should be fairly easy to work your way through. This game does take a while to beat given the large number of items to find on each level, but if enough of you make it through to the later nights, then the numbers advantage will work in your favour. Let's not waste any more time as we explain all of the levels in Rainbow Friends, beginning with Night 1 and the stack of blocks. Let's begin with the first night out of the 5. After your unfortunate bus crash, you'll be taken to the facility by a mysterious figure. At the end of the cutscene, you'll have to find 24 letter blocks and stack them up in the main theatre. These are located across the map and can be fairly easy to find, with the only areas that might be overlooked is the cave with the river and the underground area beneath the theatre. However, with the amount of people that begin on this night, this should be the easiest level to complete if each person is collecting a couple of blocks each. As is the case with these games, the first night is where most of the players are taken out of the game, due to either leaving the game or their lack of knowledge on the challenge or the monsters. Because of this, don't be surprised if you begin with 15 and end with about 5 or 6 players alive. There is only one monster on night 1 and it's called Blue. Blue is the main character used in the game's art and features a crown on his head and drool around his mouth. Blue can spot players if they aren't hiding in a box, so the best way to avoid him is to box up before you come across him and then run around the map normally as soon as he is out of sight. If you are spotted by Blue, then he'll begin to chase you, so you need to get out of sight to survive. You can do this by rounding a corner or going through a door. If you box up and a red exclamation mark remains above your head while Blue is chasing, this means he is locked onto you and will kill you regardless of whether you're in a box or not. If you're taking a long time to complete the level, the remaining blocks that you haven't picked up will be revealed to all remaining players. Once you have all 24 blocks and take them to the theatre, a cutscene will begin to signal the end of Night 1. Night 2 ramps up the difficulty somewhat by introducing another monster to the facility. By now, the numbers should have thinned out, so you'll have less players searching for the food packs, which is what you'll have to take to the theatre in this one. Thankfully, the number that you need to find has fallen, with you only needing to find 15 food packs to complete the level. These are in all the usual rooms, so as long as your group checks each room, you should have no issues. Along with Blue, Night 2 adds Green to the mix, who works in a way which makes everything a little more difficult. With Blue, you are safe in a box and in danger while running around, but with Green, you are safer while running around, with the box not providing much help against this monster. Green is blind, with long arms and short legs, with the monster squeaking as he walks. Green will pick up and kill any player that he walks into, regardless of whether they are in a box or not. If Green is nearby, it's best to stick to the left or right hand side of the corridors, since his hitbox does not extend to cover the entire corridor. You are given plenty of warning from the sound cues, but Blue and Green can be a deadly combination if they are close to each other, since one can chase while the other blocks your exit. Food pack locations are revealed if you are taking too long to complete the level, but once you have found all 15 packs, a cutscene will trigger showing you that you have made it through Night 2. By night 3, only the toughest will have made it through to this point, with blue and green taking care of those not familiar with the game. Night 3's challenge is very similar to the previous two, with fuse is the item that you need to find to make it to night 4. A total of 14 fuses are scattered across the map, one less item than the previous night. They are once again scattered in the usual rooms and corridors which you have already explored, and the low number of surviving players does make this level one of the longest to beat, but as long as you avoid the monsters, then it should be fairly simple to overcome. Night 3 adds 2 new monsters to the mix, in addition to blue and green which you have already come across. The first one we'll talk about is Orange, who comes in the form of a hungry velociraptor. You can pacify Orange for most of the game by making your way over to his lair at the other side of the map, and then filling his bowl full of food using the food dispenser. This will ensure that he isn't set loose on the map, however it does mean that you aren't spending time searching for the fuses. If Orange is let loose, then his path is revealed across the map, marked by a spiky orange trail. Orange will be somewhere on that path, so you need to make sure that you aren't standing on it by the time Orange runs through. This is fairly easy one to avoid, but can be one that catches people out if they aren't too careful. The second monster introduced on night 4 is Purple, however you won't be able to see much of him. That's because Purple hides in the vents across the map and will grab any player who isn't watching their step. Purple works his way through each of the vents, and you will know if he is nearby because you'll hear rumbling sounds around you. In front of the vent is a water patch with footstep markings. If purple eyes and hands are visible from the vent, make sure to follow the trail of footsteps and avoid touching the water at all costs. If the vent is clear, then there is no threat and you can walk past the vent as normal. Once all 14 fuses have been taken to the theatre, a cutscene will trigger, signalling the end of Night 3's challenge. On to Night 4 and the penultimate round of the chapter, and it's lights out for this one. Despite finding all 14 fuses, that overloaded the generator and cut the power in the facility. As a result, you will need to find 9 batteries to get the power back on. This is the lowest number of items that you will need to find, however by this point your group will be on its last legs. Most of the time I have been the last one standing, but the most that have ever been alive by this point in my games is 6. Due to the lights cutting out, you will need to go around with a flashlight which can be found on the left wall outside of the spawn room. Thankfully, all the batteries are lit up so they can be easily seen as you go through the map. There are no further monsters to deal with on night 4, but you will still have blue, green, orange and purple to deal with on your way to finding the 9 batteries. The batteries will reveal themselves if you are struggling, but once the 9th is found and taken to the theatre, this will mark the end of night 4 and the end of the searching challenges. On to night 5 and the finale. At the end of night 4, you'll be invited to an extra special party for all of your great efforts. Don't forget to punch your ticket in the waiting room to grab your extra special hat. Night 5 is drastically different from the previous 4 which you have completed, and you'll be glad to hear that there are no more items to find. Instead, you have what is essentially an obstacle course to traverse to earn your freedom. For the first part, you'll need to make it past a sleeping blue without stepping on the balloons. A small demonstration will occur before you attempt the level for real. After that, all surviving players will need to make it over to the cake to continue your path. So if you have someone lagging behind, you must wait for them to come over. When they finally do, a mini cutscene will happen where a balloon will drop onto the fork by the cake. It will awaken Blue, who you will now have to outrun. The race is now on to escape as the doors open behind you to reveal your first challenge. A vent hole is ahead of you, with a ramp to said vent propped up by coloured blocks from night 1. To beat this one, you basically need to move all of the blocks out of the way to allow the ramp to hit the floor. You'll need to move most of the blocks, but you should have plenty of time to do this before Blue catches up. Once you're in the vent, you just have to follow the path and avoid being too slow or fall down the gaps. There are no dead ends, but there are wrong choices where you immediately run into a wall. It's impossible to take a wrong turn in this one, just be careful of going over the wooden plank and make sure to crouch to get past the planks in front of you. There's 2 wooden planks and then 1 gate hole to crouch through, but once you have done that then you're good to go. Blue will be blocked by the closing door, but that will signal that you have successfully escaped the first chapter of Rainbow Friends. That's all there is for this one. Rainbow Friends has been a game which has exploded in popularity recently, and for good reason. There's certainly a lot of room to expand the game with new chapters and new challenges, with new monsters also expected in the next major update. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I had fun playing, and I hope you learned all of the basics about Rainbow Friends Chapter 1.